How do you sum up a career that's 25 years plus and somebody that has been standing to my left for so long? She's by far the person that I've anchored with more than anybody else in the world. And I'm pleased to be joined by Ursula Pari, but I'm not pleased for the reason.
Ditto.
Why? I mean, how long have you been in KSAT? Let's start with that.
I started in KSAT's anchor ring back in May of 1996.
Yeah.
Before the photographer who's shooting this was born.
I know. Can you believe that?
I know.
I know. We're just, and I I was trying to think when you and I started. I think it's been.
You started anchoring with me a couple of years after I started.
Yeah, I think I was doing weekends when you started here, because I started in July of '95, and then they had me do mornings, and then weekends.
I didn't remember you did mornings.
I filled in because Jim asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said no.
Talking
about Jim Boyle,
he's our guy.
A guy from way back when.
He gave us our chance, and it's been history ever since.
It has. And he's the one that first put us together and said, okay, go at it. So
For those of you who don't know, Jim Boyle, it was an amazing news director and took a huge chance on me, bringing me to San Antonio, and really put a lot of stock in what I could do. And I didn't know what he was thinking. I thought he was a crazy man. I honestly thought he was making a huge mistake, but I wasn't going to.
It's a genius.
There was some genius that worked there.
He's a genius, yeah.
It ended up working out where he was exactly right. This is the town I needed to be in.
As you sit here, just a few days away from your actual retirement, which sounds weird for me to say out loud.
Me too.
What are you thinking?
Oh man, I'm just a bucket of nerves and tears and what ifs, and I don't really have any regrets, but I just, there's so many emotions just bubbling at the surface all day long, and it's one after the other. One minute I'm thrilled, the next minute I'm crying, the next minute I'm regretful that we are not going to continue our partnership as we have for so many years, and a little bit fearful. I'm afraid. I have been working since I'm 14 years old. I was 14 when I started working as a bus girl at a Bonanza in Louisiana. And so here I am, in my 60s, and for the first time in my life, I'm not going to have to go into an office or a workplace. Yeah,
but how nice is that to say you're not going to have to?
I know, but
like,
it's
you
scary.
Don't have to. I get it's scary.
I've never not worked. Most times I've had 2 or 3 jobs at once. And so this is going to be really weird.
Yeah. What's next?
I'm going to try to have a car running in the parking lot when I turn in my card key and do my exit interview. And then I'm just going to hit the road. And I'm going to go visit family. And I've never been, for instance, to Washington, D.C. I want to go see that. I want to go to the Smithsonian. I've never had time to do all these things.
Yeah. But you're not going to retire. I know you enough to know you are not going to retire.
Well, I am still CEO of a nonprofit that keeps the historic world of polo alive in San Antonio.
San Antonio Polo Club.
It's the oldest club in Texas, if not the U.S., and I feel like it's kind of my obligation to keep it going. But I'm going to start delegating things out.
Yeah.
That's going to happen over the next. I can't possibly keep my hands in all of that while I'm traveling. So
yeah.
But I am going to. Well, on the bucket list, for instance, I'm going to go to our family namesake island in Sicily, and I'm going to go hang out with the Sicilians. I mean, when have I had time to do that?
Your people.
My people. I learned how to make homemade pasta and everything. I'm ready.
Yeah. Is it going to be odd on July 2nd when you're not coming to 1408 North St. Mary's?
Very odd. Very odd. You become a creature of habit, and this has been part of my daily routine. I'm always thinking about it. I'm always planning ahead, what's next, what do we want to do? Oh my goodness, let's make sure we don't miss that story. And that is going to be weird that I no longer am going to have my hands in the sausage making, so to speak. Someone else is in charge of making the boudin.
Yeah.
And I have to get my hands out of it. It's going to be weird.
I know it's hard to sum up, your career here, but what are some of the biggest memories you have? Because I know when we say best memories, I mean, that can there are vivid memories that aren't necessarily the best memories.
Right. And we have had quite a few of those. I can remember the night Michelle Lima
Yes.
was hit by a car on her way to a story, and you and I were on the set. And during the newscast, we got the news that she'd been hit, and then we got the news that she was being airlifted, and it was not good.
Yeah.
And you can just see the look on our faces at the end of that newscast, just like, what's happening? And she died the next morning, and I had to go in her place the next day on the air.
Yep.
That was horrible.
Yeah.
And there have been a couple of newscasts that I would wish that I was not there for. And that definitely was one of them, but was also kind of an honor to take her place because she meant so much to so many people here as well as to the community.
She was my first co-anchor.
I know.
So, yeah, I mean, I remember
To
that.
watch her die
I
was
remember
just
that night vividly.
Sitting at
And
Wilford Hall all
full of
night long, praying.
somebody full of so much life. There's also been things that, you and I have gone through that the community has. When I think back to Michelle Lima, I think of just how the community turned out for her funeral and how they really wanted us to feel the emotions and let us feel their sympathies.
I think it was kind of shocking to everybody who was involved. Like, this is how much we mean to the community.
Yes.
Like, when you take that helm, it's not a joke. It's not a job promotion. It's not there is a huge responsibility involved, and you better take it seriously because you've got, 1.3 million people who care very deeply that you're there every night.
Absolutely. And it's a responsibility that I know neither you nor I took lightly.
No.
But there were also Spurs championships.
Oh my gosh, that was fun. And you and I would sit on the set because we knew we were going on late because it was the playoffs. And we would sit on the set and we'd complain about the late hours. And oh my gosh, it's 10:30. Oh my gosh, it's 12:30. Oh my gosh, it's 1:30. And will this tie break ever end? We
Yeah.
we were always kind of complaining like regular employees, and then they would win.
Yeah.
And then there was a whole new, feeling, atmosphere in the studio. We were celebrating.
I just remember us sitting on the set waiting for the Spurs games to be over. And by the time the game started, you and I were hoarse because we had been yelling at the TV screen, cheering on the Spurs for so long.
Yes.
And, by the time we got on and we would have to explain, we're a little hoarse. We've been watching the game and yelling.
But so was everyone
yeah,
at home,
exactly.
so
So
we got
that
into it.
we had to explain, and I think
And how late
they
were we
understood.
on the air that night, the first Spurs championship night?
You weren't with me then. I wasn't here that first night. Because the next day I had to go when they were arriving at the airport.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had that night off.
I think
but
it was
I
like
think it was like,
2:30 or
yeah, it was
3 o'clock
really
in the morning.
late. Yeah.
And we celebrated with San Antonio. San Antonio was out in the street, and we were celebrating with them.
The funny thing is 99 set the template for how this city celebrates
No one had
championships.
seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
I also think about some of the kind of fun things that, again, Jim Boyle let me do. I remember he flew me to Chicago, and I interviewed Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, I remember.
And very few people got to interview Oprah Winfrey at that time. She was the hottest ticket in town.
Yep.
And the queen of TV. And showed up at the Omni Hotel, which was what they advertised on the show. We didn't know what we were getting into. And it ended up being just such a fun interview because Oprah was just like, "Ooh, I like your suit. Can I take a picture of that? I want to show that to my friend Gail King." And I mean,
Yeah.
it ended up being like two schoolgirls chatting in high school.
Well, that's the thing about this job is you meet people you would never meet.
Yeah. presidents, vice presidents,
Yeah.
secretaries of state. And I've been doing this a long time. I was looking at some of my old photos because every time I've cleaned my desk out, I put it all in a box, and then of course, my desk fills up with more stuff.
Of course.
And I came across a picture from Portland, Maine, or Augusta, Maine, and I was interviewing then Governor Angus King in Portland, and he sent me this picture of the two of us when he heard I was moving down to Texas.
Yeah.
And he wrote on it, "Good question, Ursula." And people like that along the way. He was I think a moderator for a TV show on PBS back then before he was governor.
Yeah.
And now, of course, they're in the Capitol.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let alone those, but even, I remember back in the day seeing David Robinson in the newsroom and
Yes.
Avery and, just all these people that would come through the KSAT 12 newsroom.
And what was funny is that we'd be like, "Hi, David, how are you?" Or, "How, David, how are you? How are you doing up there?" And then he would give you a great big old hug and go, "Oh, you're my favorite newscaster."
Yeah.
"My wife watches you all the time. Can I get a picture with you?" And I'm thinking, David Robinson wants a picture with me?
I know, that's what's humbling. That's what's humbling is like you meet these guys and you realize that they watch you.
Yes.
I ran into David, I think it was at HEB or something, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" I go, "I'm just getting
shopping."
groceries."
I remember sitting down to play in a poker game, and I had Manu and Tony Parker sitting across from me. And I'm thinking, do I want to lose to Manu Ginobili or do I want to win?
Yeah.
You had to think about it.
Yeah, yeah. Is there, you and I are similar in the way that we were both single when we came to this town.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have children,
In college.
married, all of that. We've gone through so many different life experiences together that I think because there is you put it well, partnership between the two of us, I think it's a little different than a normal work relationship.
Well, people don't know, but I make jokes calling him my TV husband, which I hope Nicole does not mind.
She doesn't.
Okay. But we've, off camera and outside of the studio and outside of the station, we've done other things together. And I'll never forget that life and death moment that you were there for me. And most people probably don't even know that.
You got hurt?
Let's peel the curtain back.
You were hurt badly.
I was going to die.
I was worried about you.
Well, I learned later that I should have died. And I got hurt in a polo game. And Steve was there because we were also teaching his daughter polo. And so my husband was involved, had all these horses to take care of and stuff. I'd fallen off. We didn't know how bad it was. And so Steve, my TV husband, jumped in the ambulance instead of my real husband, and we went to BAMC together.
Yep.
And
I held your hand all the way, and I said, "Just squeeze this hand for how it hurt."
And I didn't think I was dying or anything, but when later I learned that most people die of those kinds of injuries.
You broke ribs, you punctured a lung, you had a lot of injuries,
Yeah.
and I knew it was bad when I saw the accident. That's why I was like, when Patrick couldn't go, I'm like, I'm going.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. What are co-anchors for, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I was your fill-in. Here's the funny thing though, when we walked into BAMC and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna have to cut her shirt off," and I'm like, "I'll be in the waiting room over here." Like, I know her well. I don't need to know her that well. I'll be over here. Don't worry about me.
They cut every stitch of clothing I had on.
Yeah.
Our photographer here is about to
I know,
have a heart
he's
attack.
dying laughing. Yeah.
But they cut every inch of clothes off of me, and I'm lying there in BAMC in the ER, and I'm thinking, and there's all these men and staff around, and everyone's staring at me, and I'm like, oh my God, what are they going to go home and tell their family?
I know, that's invariably when you get recognized. "Hey, I watch you every night." Okay.
My wife said she saw you
Thank you.
naked.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, good.
One of those weird memories and odd people. That was the oddest place to find a news anchor, buck naked in an ER.
Yeah. But you were in bad shape. We can laugh about it now, but it was serious.
It was. I had a what they call a flailed rib cage, which means that this part of my rib cage had come apart from my chest.
Yep.
And I had little splinters all over, puncturing my lungs. But, you know, that takes us to a subject I do want to talk about, which is San Antonio. We are so fortunate to be in this city. I mean, beyond anything you can imagine, having BAMC, the best trauma unit in the whole world, right in our backyard. We were 5 minutes away from the best trauma center in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, San Antonio is such a special place.
Well, that's the thing, is like there is a special relationship between KSAT and our viewers. Mm-hmm. You agree with that?
Oh, yeah. We are part of, you know, you and I did not grow up here. We are transplants. But I don't know about you, but for me, finding a home in our crazy business is hard to do. It's very hard in our industry. Most people are nomads and they go from one town to another until they find the better paying job, and then they quit and they go into real estate or PR or something like that. You and I found a home here, and we were just welcomed in, and still are welcomed in as members of the family. You know, we're part of the household, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And I like being there. I like having a family this big.
Well, that's the thing, is like I've always appreciated KSAT viewers. And I mean, they put their trust in us. They take us into their homes on a nightly basis, or take us with them on their phones now. Mm-hmm. And that's something I think you can never undervalue.
No.
Something like that. As you leave, what do you think people need to know? What do you want them to know about Ursula Pari?
Just know I gave it my all. I mean, 1,000%. I always wanted the truth to come first, and that everything else was secondary in our business. And as much as it looks like there's a lot of, you know, dog and pony show going on when we're doing the news, the real basics of what we're doing is cluing you into the truth as we know it now. And I hope that you know that I did my absolute best making that happen. I never once compromised if I could. You know, if I couldn't compromise and I was, you know, being forced into something, I might have shaded it a little bit, but for the most part, it was 100% the truth, and I was going to fight like hell to make sure it was.
The general manager called you a legend. Are you comfortable with being called a legend?
Who called me a legend?
Ashley. In her news conference, she called you a legend.
Is that true?
Or part of KSAT's legacy or something like that. I was like, wow, okay, wow, all right.
I don't know. I don't think I'm a legend. I think I'm just very fortunate that I found a home for these 28 years. It's going to stay my home for the next years to come. You won't see me on TV anymore, probably, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah. What do you want to say? What do you want to say to KSAT viewers?
Thank you. I am incredibly humbled to have been able to do this for so long. My life would never, in my wildest dreams, ended up like this. And here we are. I just still am incredulous at the idea that this is where I am, and that after all these years, I've stayed in one spot, enjoyed a beautiful city, made it my home, had my children grow up here, and thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do that. That is so rare in our business. It really is.
You know how much I appreciate you, right?
I know.
Okay. All right.
I'll hold your hand for the next few years. Like
Okay,
you did
good.
for
You
me.
need to. You need to. Can I squeeze you when it's
Yes.
paying? Okay, yeah, I'll squeeze it when it's in
I'll
paying.
give you a virtual squeeze over the phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for asking.